Hello everybody! So today, my intention is to give you a little bit of insight into the game of Civilization 5. I will be streaming this during the anniversary stream, and I figured, not everybody knows it. So let's give people a little rundown of how that game goes. First of all, before we even start the game, Civ is about civilizations, and there's like 50 of them, I think. I don't really know, I haven't counted them. And they all have their unique little things. So usually what happens is every Civ has one unique bonus and two unique units or buildings. Now, I randomed the Hunnic Empire here, Attila the Hun. Because of that, I can raise cities extra fast, so I can destroy enemy cities. I start with animal husbandry, and I get extra production from pastures, which is, when I have cows and cattle and that kind of stuff, I can build a pasture on it to improve it and get extra, resources from it. My unique units are two offensive early game units. This is a siege unit, and this is a ranged archer, which is interesting. We'll get right into the game. Don't fucking give me tips. I've played this game disgustingly much. Alright. So I turned it off. In the early game, one of your first priorities is finding out where you're going to settle. Now, the game makes it extra easy for you because it usually spawns you in a relatively good settle location. But you can always, quickly move a unit around. And as a result, honestly, I could just consider moving my ass down here. Here's the thing, right? Being adjacent to the ocean usually means that you can do slightly better trade routes. So I'm actually going to make that call. Now, moving does mean that you have one turn less, but such is life, right? There's important things we gain in return as well. Alright, so this is our city, Attila's Court. Now, every city has its tile yields. So you gather food and production. Food allows your city to grow. You gather production to build things. You can do that like this. We can build a scout unit. You create science. With science, you can go through the tech tree over here. The tech tree is used to research new buildings, new units, and new bonuses. For example, I can construct a quarry if I research masonry, or I can chop down jungle or just forests if I go down this route, right? And by doing that, I can change the map around me for the better, get better tile yields. What you see over here are the tile yields. For example, these horses, they give me 2 food and 1 production, but if I go and build an improvement on them, I get slightly more, right? Okay, with that covered, let's see. Is there anything else? Gold. We can use gold to buy things. Very simple stuff. There's faith, so we can form a religion. There's tourism. Tourism is actually one of the victory conditions. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And there is culture. Culture is actually quite important. It's not like the tech tree, where you unlock new buildings and stuff, but it's the policy tree. So you can choose a policy branch. Most of the time you will pick tradition first, and you will be able to unlock little pieces of it and improve your civilization. For example, after I adopt tradition, I get extra culture in general, and if I then start ticking little boxes here, I, for example, can get extra production when building wonders, which is very useful, right? It helps you in the race for the wonders, because wonders are these unique buildings. There can only be one of them per game, and as a result, you're usually fighting other players over them. Now, what we just found was a goody hut, the ancient ruins. This little bitch called Elizabeth just stole them from me. Yikes forever. But yeah, those little goody huts are super useful. You can find gold, population, technologies, faith, culture. You can find you can find the map entailing where the barbarians are. Barbarians are another important early game thing. You usually won't be too bothered by them later down the game, but especially early game you'll be struggling with them a little bit. Alright, so I'm now building a monument which will give me additional culture per turn in my city, which will allow me to get a new policy. However, will I first construct the Temple of Artemis? This is always a little bit of a dilemma. I'm looking at my tile yields over here. My tiles are actually not that impressively good, right? I can't get 2 food from most of these. And as a result, my food status right now is actually quite poor. So my growth rate will not be that good. We could try and alleviate that by building an early granary. But, especially when you're playing the hunts, you would like to go a little bit differently, right? So my personal favorite opener is I go for the Temple of Artemis, which gives me extra growth in every city. It gives me a great engineer point, which allows me to start progressing towards a great engineer. And a great engineer can help me get a world wonder in 1 turn, which is extremely fucking useful. I'm moving back up here because I figured out that down here there's not gonna be very much more, right? Yes. We got trapping out of the ruins. So yeah, if you look over here now, there's this technology over here called trapping. We need it to construct a camp, which would then allow us to build a camp on this ivory and start harvesting it. So that's actually a really good find. I'm pretty happy about that. Alright, I'm going to... Okay, so most of the time it's best to just not tinker with this at all, right? But I'm going to make the decision here that 1 production is actually worth more than this 2 gold that I'm getting from my ivory, right? And as a result, this Temple of Artemis will be built 3 turns sooner. So you can usually mess around a little bit with your tile management and try and get the most out of your early game, right? Once again, these world wonders, they are very much a race. And you want to get to your world wonders before your opponent does, because you if your opponent finishes the world wonder before you do, you're not going to be getting it. Now, while that production is great, early game you really want that food. Okay, let's demonstrate very quickly. So right now it takes us 5 turns to grow to 3 population, and after we get another population, we can work another tile. But let's instead do this, right? Back to our old tile management. It now takes us 10 turns, right? So a lot of the time you will try early game to maximize your food output, and later on focus more on things like production and gold. And bam, we now get the policy that allows us to build wonders extra fast, which should... I should have shown you guys how much it does, but it's 15%, so it's at least 1 turn, right? Which is always nice. And bam, we can now start going for mathematics. So in the early game, there's a fair few interesting things you can do. For example, what I really like to do, especially when I get the hunts, because the hunts start with animal husbandry, is go down this branch, right? You get archery, animal husbandry, you can then research the wheel, and you can then research mathematics, right? Mathematics unlocks one of the strongest wonders in the early game, called the Hanging Gardens, and you get +6 food per turn, right? Which is essentially the same as the 3 best food tiles that I could right now assign to my city. Now, once tiles start getting improved, it's not that radically good, but especially in the early game, it allows you to sort of rush ahead. And bam, we just found some culture in a ruin. That's great. Alright. that's really good because we need to start branching into honor. Now, what honor does for you, if you just open the tech or the policy tree, is it gives you extra combat strength against the barbarians, and you will gain culture every time you kill barbarians. So you can actually sorta get the culture that you invest into honor back, which is quite important. One problem that I feel like I'm facing right now is I haven't found the city-state. Now, those of you who aren't as, familiar with Civ may not understand why that's a problem, but one of the popular gimmicks for the early game is to go to a city-state that has a worker, and you declare war on them, you take their worker, and then you just get a peace with them. Now, they won't be happy with you, but you get a free worker. Alright, we just bombarded the brute, plus 8 culture, right? From killing it. And it cost us like 40 culture to embrace that policy, so that's very efficient, right? Now, the problem with that is every policy you take is going to increase the cost of the next policy, so it's not like, once I get 40 culture, it's paid itself back. No. It's like steadily going to impact my game, but I can still benefit from it. Not just in terms of the culture gain, but also in terms of the combat strength against the barbarians. Our city actually grew earlier, and is now harvesting this 2 food over here, which isn't completely useless. But I really want to finish this wonder here. So let's look back at tile management, right? 6 turns for the Artemis, 4 turns for the Artemis. We're gonna have to start working on a worker at some point, and kablamo, the Artemis is done. Alright, now we need to start working on this wonder, the Hanging Gardens, right? So, we're probably going to struggle for space. We're very boxed in over here, right? And we've sort of embraced that. Which is why I'm sort of sticking with just the one city here and starting to work on these wonders, right? Because that means we're going to have a strong Civ. And then later on, if we feel like it, we can go stomp some AIs and take their cities, because I can rush to settle a city like over here, but it's going to get us like in quick trouble with England, and it's not actually going to significantly improve our early game, so I'm not really a fan of that, right? And there's this handy tool. If you press F1, you can go to the Civilopedia. Alright, improved. Oh, it does work on horses. That's great then, actually. Alright, once we start improving these horses, then we gain +1 production from them. Then, or +1 production more than we normally would. And they already should give +1 production when we improve them. So this horse should give us 4 production and 1 food once we start to improve it. Which is pretty good, right? Reason I'm not really rushing to do that by like rushing a worker is because we can always do that later, right? But the thing about wonders is, again, because there's only one of each wonder that can be built throughout the game, we kind of have to make sure that we're the ones getting it, right? Again, right now this game is like, yo, you considered working just this food? And I'm like, nah, I want some production, right? Again, 22 turns when I don't fuck around with the tile management at all, 16 turns when I mess around with it a little bit, right? And yes, we lose some growth, and that's not ideal, but we can make all that back. We just got a new tech, which is writing. Writing is great. So usually what you'll do if you go a bit more wonder rushy like this, right, and you don't spam out some cities, Because that's like the advantage of not going for the wonders. You can spam out the cities, right? Start building them up rather fast. But if you go this Wonder Rush mode, what you can do is just start building the National College before you even get your second city. And by doing so, you won't have to wait for your second city to build a library. That's the thing about the National College. It's very strong. Plus 50% science is insane, right? But you need a library in every city, and when you're expanding your empire, that becomes a little bit of a pain in the ass. We've seen it in, or I've seen it in so many multiplayer games where, like, my mates are just like, oh shit. Why did these barbarians just decide that they were going to, YOLO my cap? But yeah, people, like, they start building the National College, then they start settling some cities, and then it's like, oh wow, I can't actually finish this anymore. Oh, that's a little bit of a problem. And it's not great, because it's such a strong building to have. My early game's a little bit messed with, right? And the reason why is because you normally have a city-state in your vicinity, and you can go steal one of their workers, and start improving your tiles and start really having a good early game. We don't have that, which makes my strategy of, you know, wonder rushing significantly worse. Fuck off, Shoshone. I'm not trying to be friends. So yeah, we just finished the Hanging Gardens. This is where our game starts becoming a little bit nuts, right? So yeah, these barbarians, they're usually more of a pest. Why is there an... Okay, one of my AI buddies over here really fucked it up. Why do they have a fucking settler? That's ridiculous. Oh no. One of the AIs got their settler stolen. So yeah, to settle a second city, you need to build a settler and walk it over there. You need to keep it protected while you're doing so, because otherwise it'll just get stolen by barbarians or by players. I've actually ruined some people's games for fun, just taking their settlers. It's hilarious. Wow, what a forward settle. Alright, well, I know who I'm fighting. Fucking hell, that is some clowny shit. Alright, but yeah, I can go straight into the National College this way. Imagine forward settling that hard. Alright. Well, I hope he's ready for some fucking action. Because once this starts flying online, we start becoming pretty crazy.